Well, I remember one time, I think it was, would have been around 1980 or no, 1978 or 79. You remember Studio 54?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, he calls me one day. I was staying at a hotel in New York City. And he calls me, and my wife was in town. And he says, Kenny, how would you like to go to Studio 54? I said, well, it's just up the street from where I'm at. I says, why? He says, I'd like to go. And he says, I can't get in there by myself because nobody knew him. You know, nobody who knew who Vince McMahon was back then.
Right.
And so anyway, he says, I'll bring Ernie. Ernie Roth was my the Grand Wizard.
Sure.
He was my manager at the time. So myself, my wife, the Grand Wizard, and Vince McMahon, we all go down, we meet down at Studio 54. And the problem is, it wasn't open to the public that night. It was a private party, you know, invite only. Well, shit, there was a block a mile long, like there always was, you know. It was like 4, 5, 6 deep around, you know, 4 or 5 blocks. And so I go up to so Vince keeps encouraging me, go up and talk to the door guy. I said, well, what's the door guy gonna do? And he said, well, go up there and talk to him, tell him who you are and everything. So I go up there and I said, hey, can I bother you? His name was Steve. And he played defensive back for the Seattle Seahawks. And my brother Jack was the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks at that time.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. He says, you're Ken Patera, right? I said, yeah. He says, oh, God, who you here with? I tell him. He says, well, come on up. You know? And so we're taking our way through the crowd. And he says, Ken, he says, it's a private party. He tells me the whole thing, you know, but you still have to purchase a ticket. I said, how much are tickets? He said, $50 a piece. So I pull out $200, give him that. Then he gives me the 4 tickets and we go in. So I tell Vince, I said, Vince, you owe me $200. For what? I said, I had to buy these tickets. You know, they're not free. And so we go in, we get in on the dance floor, and the music was playing, unbelievable. The fantastic sound system in there. And place was packed. I guess it was around 3,000 people in there. And so we're not too far from the bar. I says, you guys want a drink? And so I took orders, you know. And so I go up to the bar, and I'll tell you, when they mix drinks, they didn't mess around. I ordered a scotch and water in a tall glass. They must have put 4 or 5 ounces of scotch in there and a splash of water with a twist. And I got a drink for Ernie and Vince and my wife. So I'm coming back, you know, from the bar, you know, carrying the 4 drinks. And I don't know how many of that. I must have drank 5 or 6 of those sons of bitches. I mean, I was fucked up by the time I left. And so anyway, they had a balcony in the place. The Studio 54 originally was an old movie theater. And so they had a big balcony upstairs. And Vince decides he's going to go upstairs to the balcony and see what kind of action is going on up there. So and Ernie grabbed him by the arm. You know, the Grand Wizard grabbed him by the arm and said, no, you're not going up there. He said, all that's full of homosexuals and whores and drug dealers. Well, that's a perfect place for Vince McMahon. You know, he loved all that shit. And so anyway, the Grand Wizard wouldn't let him go up, and the Grand Wizard was a homosexual, but
Right.
you'd never know it, you know. And, you know, he smoked his dope and everything. So anyway, a couple minutes later, the or no, I think it was Vince. Vince pulls out a couple marijuana cigarettes and lights them up. And so my wife and Ernie and Vince are sitting there smoking, and Vince says, "You want some?" I said, "No, I don't smoke that shit." He said, "Come on." I said, "No, I'm not gonna, you know, I'm drinking." And so they get all toted up and everything. And so, yeah, we had a good time. Yeah. So, oh, Vince wanted to dance. Nobody did. So he said, "Ken, I'm going to dance with your wife. I be my guest." I said, "Susan, you want to dance with Vince?" "Yeah." So they're out there cutting the rug, and you know, Vince is the cool guy, you know. And but yeah, we all had a good time. Yeah.
That's a great story, Ken. Thank you. That was
Yeah.
great.